for the country. She'll focus on her middle-class upbringing, her background as a prosecutor, and how her plan for the nation differs greatly from that of her opponent, former President Donald Trump. For more insight on this, I want to bring in our Michigan Democratic Senator Gary Peters. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator. And I'm curious, we just learned from our Mary Bruce that it sounds like Vice President Harris is sort of still tweaking her speech. She's going to describe to us only his heart collected, but also overly prepared. And you said, you know what, that doesn't surprise you that much to hear.
A wise man once said, to forget how to dig the soil and the earth is to forget ourselves. Well, maybe some have, but a few of us still know. You gotta be willing to put in the time, the sacrifices, and the hard choices. The job's got its perks, don't get me wrong. The sweet smell of the morning dew, the way the warm sun and the cool breeze can dance across your skin. But don't think it's a game. The farm's got a way of sorting the wheat from the chaff. Just remember to keep your wits about you.
When you took the stage, you also brought some retired Teamsters up there with you.
You fall, you get back up again. Because this is more than just a job. It's a calling. Who else would choose to wake up early in the morning, tear up their hands working in the fields all day, and then spend the evening planning how they're going to do it all over again, better, tomorrow? Day after day. Season after season. Year after year. That's a calling that's never ending. It stretches far forward and back from us as long as farmers have been tending this earth. And farmers will be around as long as such a thing exists. Tomorrow is secured by those willing to dirty their hands today. So when you feel alone out there in the field, just remember, you're not. Think about all those that have come before you. And all those that'll follow. Plant today. Harvest tomorrow.
And how she cares deeply about the civilians that are being caught in the crossfire of this war. Clearly, these are individuals that are caught between a terrorist organization, Hamas, that committed unspeakable atrocities to Israelis that are attacking their citizens.
I'd like to bring their hostages home.
They want to bring the hostages home, but you've got civilians that are to find a solution.
All right, thank you so much for joining us, Senator. It was so wonderful to sit here with you, and I'd be curious to hear your thoughts after this speech here tonight.
I'll look forward to it.
All right, thank you for being here. All right, I now want to bring in our ABC News, Zari and Shaw and Jay O'Brien. They're here with me, along with our senior national correspondent, Terry Moran. So first of all, Terry, I'm seeing where everybody's at. So Terry, you're down there on the floor. Another thing that we've been talking a lot about, Terry, is the importance of the heartland and of rural America in this election. And we are really seeing the Democratic Party make a major push for those votes here. And when you saw Tim Walz take the stage last night, he spoke really directly to a lot of those Americans.
He did. One of his jobs in this campaign is to balance the ticket like any vice presidential choice. Kamala Harris, from California, coastal. He's from the heartland, right? Born in Nebraska, raised in Minnesota. Everybody knows the story now. But he brings more than just geography. He brings really you can almost feel it. It's almost tactile that he speaks Midwestern, right? He's got that sense of unpretentiousness, of earnestness. He talks about neighborliness, those values, those ways of living that a lot of voters in crucial states would recognize as their own. That really is, he's the ambassador from the Harris campaign to those crucial swing states, but it goes beyond the Midwest. Those are the middle class, working class voters. The Democrats, frankly, have been losing over the last several elections. Walz's pick is an effort to invite them back into the Democratic Party.
And really just him being there, it sounds like we're hearing that is making a difference, particularly with you, Jay. I know you spent some time in rural Georgia talking with folks that are trying to get the word out about now what the Democratic Party can offer rural America. And it sounds like, again, just his name being there is helping.
Yeah, and there is a sense of enthusiasm amongst the rural Democrats that I've talked to. Actually, we're here in the Minnesota delegation, speaking of talking about Tim Walz. But there are Democrats in rural Georgia and really across the country that I've talked to who say, look, they believe Tim Walz will give them added enthusiasm and may help them kind of run up the margins a little bit, which could be key in a state like Georgia, right? You know, the more votes you get for Georgia for Democrats, even if they're not in that, city of Atlanta where Democrats really want to get out their vote, that helps Democrats in any kind of close race in any state like Georgia that it's going to be close in. But the other thing I can tell you is that there is an understanding for rural Democrats that while Tim Walz might help with that, might help run up those margins, that a lot of these deep red counties that have voted for Republicans now for a decade or more are still deeply Trump country, and the project of flipping them Democrat with some of these Dems is going to be a years-long project, not just a few months from now November.
Right, and there's just not a lot of time left, as we all know. And so, right, I'm curious to get your thoughts here, because I shared with Senator Peters very first reporting that it sounds like Vice President Harris is still sort of tweaking her speech, making some of these last-minute changes, and he said, that doesn't really surprise me, right? It's almost what you would do your closing argument as a prosecutor. I'm curious to your thoughts.
I think that's exactly right. I mean, look, she was a prosecutor for so long, and even when I interviewed her, when I asked her questions on the campaign trail, every single word that she said, you could feel it. She was really thinking about it and being deliberate whenever she would communicate to reporters or communicate to the public. So I'm not surprised that she's still making tweets, and I'm very curious to see what she's going to have to say tonight.
I think this whole world is, if I'm being quite honest. Sorry, Jay and Terry, our thanks to all of you. We have a lot more special coverage ahead here on ABC News Live out of Canada. We're from the Democratic National Convention. Stay with us.
We are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal supplies attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from Melissa Maine.
Scene of the horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there.
The scene of that deadly flight in Ukraine. Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In Rolling Fork,
This tornado tore through this town. The most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
From Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland,
Mexico City.
from the front lines from southern Israel, down to Gaza Strip.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
here at 10 Downing Street in London Street, live to you.
Wherever the story is, we're taking it there. We're straight ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
We're straight ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere America's #1 streaming news.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a suspect warrant to get you up with what happened overnight. We can right here on West doesn't think that
What's happening today? That's where the tensions in the Middle East.
what people are talking about. The language crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
It's some fun in between.
Check out the date on the 17th hole.
The buzz still is
First thing in the morning.
America this morning.
America's #1 early morning news.
On ABC News Live.
Titan of the true crime industry. But the story was never fully
stories. A lot of news today, so let's get to it. Listen now to the Digital News Podcast caught with 4 Edward R. Murrow reports and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start here, ABC News, making your daily first listen.
Now that's part of the story that you didn't see.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
This is ABC News Live continuing coverage of the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago. I tell you what, it's filling up really fast down there. I mean, you can see the floor is almost full. Also noting the color white. A lot of folks wearing the color white. Big support for women here tonight on this historic day in Chicago. Everybody, look, I'm joined by ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks. I told you we would bring her back, and now she gets to sit with me. I'm so happy to have you here. That's really fun. It is. Right, it's a great view, especially when they're doing those really full mic chats. Absolutely. You're kind of Listen, there's clearly a lot to talk about. Let's start with the border, if we can. Right? We know that Donald Trump is down there today. We know that he's making a push. We also know that he's leading in the polls on the issue of immigration. But there is going to be border representation here tonight. Senator Mark Kelly will be taking the stage as well as some others. Tell me a little bit about what you think we will see here tonight and how she can sort of make up some ground and lay out her plan on the border.
But when I think of all the attacks that Republicans have launched against her, this is the one that I think Democrats still haven't figured out how to counter. The message here the last few days is let's turn the page, right? Turn the page on divisiveness. It's hard to turn the page when you are the one that's still the incumbent, the one in office, and especially when it comes to those panic scenes at the border. Republicans can say, you were the one that had the power to clean this up, to fix this, right? So the border issue will continue to be a drag on her campaign. She has to figure out how to counter it. And we're getting some clues that they're going to try tonight. We're seeing Colin Albright, he's the Democratic Senate candidate in Texas. There's others, exactly. So there's clearly this emphasis in the lineup tonight on those border states. It says to me, if we're reading tea leaves right, that they have some programming plan around that border immigration crisis. They want to take this on head on. They know that it's a real vulnerability for her, and they want to answer for it. You know, yesterday we saw a little bit of this. That border patrol agent who came out in support and really blasted the former president for seeking that bill. I imagine that'll be a lot of the tone that Trump complains about this issue, but isn't fixing this issue. It'll be really interesting to see what else he's going to have to say.
She also has to walk this fine line, though, with dealing with something like the border, something that Republicans are winning, but also appeasing this progressive wing of her party. And we know that Elizabeth Warren will also be taking the stage tonight. She's certainly known for her progressive policies.
Yeah, we checked in with her staff. They said that she's going to make the economic case for Kamala Harris, really doubling down on some of those economic proposals that we saw from the Vice President Harris just a few weeks ago. She rolled out the beginning of those economic plans, things like trying to go after big corporations that she says are engaged in price gouging, money to help with new housing, expanding child tax credit. You know, Republicans, of course, pounced. I mean, they said this is socialism, communism, it's way too far, too radical. I was talking to one of Elizabeth Warren's former campaign advisors. He completely left that off. He said they were always going to say that. Republicans, it wouldn't have mattered what we possibly put out. They were going to say it was too radical, too lefty. He said they can call it communism, socialism. He told me they're just popular ideas. Really interesting here that everyone to make an economic case for this Democratic ticket, they're leaning in. Oh, to that progressive voice, they are leaning in. They are doubling down. They think that Democratic voters, especially, that they are here to hold the country, want to see kind of new, big, bold ideas, and they want to deliver on that.
That I find that fascinating, especially in light of, Rachel Bate told me yesterday that Nancy Pelosi was also instrumental in the Tim Walz decision, right? And there's been a lot of talk.
But progressives love him.
Well, exactly. So, and that's what the talk has been, right? That progressives love him, that his policies are progressive, but that some people think he kind of comes off a little bit as more centric, right? And he's going to appeal to rural America. But will his policies?
Well, part of it, I think, is where the country has sort of gone and the conversation has moved. When we talk about progressive policies that he's worked on, things like raising the minimum wage for state workers,
meals for kids,
paying the family leave,
driver's licenses for immigrants.
I think that progressive is a term now thrown around loosely in the Democratic Party, and I guess I'm saying is some of these ideas have become more mainstream in this party. We've just seen more and more candidates push for things like a raise the minimum wage, push for paid family leave in a way that, 8 years ago, Senator Sanders was quite the left out of the room over some of those issues.
Right, you said that to me earlier in the week, and you're like, look, he was kind of outside, and now his thoughts are not that bizarre.
Well, this is more like this choice to speak his mind tonight.
That is so interesting. Very honest. I'm so glad you were able to come here and sit with me. So you know, we took you throughout the day. All right, thanks everybody for watching our special coverage of ABC News Live from Chicago, the Democratic National Convention. Again, we keep talking about how packed this floor is, but you can see there's tons of reporters, there's tons of fans down there. You see Adam Kinzinger down there on the floor, and some great Kamala Harris hats. That's a new one. I haven't seen it yet. We'll be right back.
Here in Israel.
Wherever the story is.
Tonight is the final day of the Democratic National Convention as Vice President Kamala Harris takes the stage and makes her case. David Lee reports from Chicago. World News Tonight with David Lee is America's most watched newscast.
I've seen many people start their day here.
ABC News. This is Start Here.
Today, and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get to it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 awards and see how the New York Times calls it the news podcast worth listening to. Start here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story that you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
Hi, I'm Mandy, and I'm Sabrina, and we're moms juggling tons of stuff every day, like all you moms out there.
And you know what we love? We love pop culture.
So what happens when being obsessed with pop culture collides with being a mom?
You get us.
So listen now to our new podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
They both want to be your next president. Meet fun, Kamala Harris. Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Consider this historic. The ABC News presidential debate, honored by David Lee Tuesday, September 10th, live on ABC, and streamed on ABC News and Disney Plus. The ABC News presidential debate.
Reporting from the 2024 Summer Games in Paris, I'm Matthew Rulli. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
All right, this is ABC News Live continuing coverage of the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago, and there you see it. That is the podium. History will be made at the podium tonight. ABC's Jay O'Brien is also down there on the convention floor with the very latest. And look, Jay, I mean, there's been a lot of momentum, a lot of excitement all week long. There is no question, but today feels elevated, feels different.
Yeah, this will go up so quickly, and it's a sign of the level of anticipation here. I've talked to Democrats who say they want to hear Kamala Harris take Trump on head on. They also want her to introduce herself to the American people. And some say some told me rather, they want her to acknowledge the history of the moment. She will certainly be looking out in the crowd that acknowledges her comes out in the polling, if and when he does drop out, and exactly what that looks like politically. But certainly there's an expectation down here that that might be more of a Trump for Harris, although once those voters essentially get released in a way and their candidate is not running, they are certainly up for grabs.
They certainly are, and it will be interesting to see what the polling looks like here. And does she get a convention polling bump as well? Because they are certainly tight right now. All right, Jay and Brian, our thanks to you as always. Thank you for streaming with us. I'm Kena Whitworth. Special primetime coverage of the 2024 Democratic National Convention kicks off right here on ABC News Live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. And later, Lindsay Davis is joined by our David Muir and our entire powerhouse political team. We hope that you check them out. The news never stops. Neither do we. Keep it right here on ABC News Live.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
You're part of an operation.
So some kind of operation center.
We're approaching the gate to spin in both directions. See, people loaded and ready to go.
The house was destroyed, but the flag out of there.
How important is made to USA? Great work.
Ismail? David. I'm David Muir.
I know you are.
You do?
Every night.
ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning.
To catch you up with what happened overnight. Recent riot here, arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today? Escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about, the migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward.
With some fun in between.
Check out the Gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning
America's #1 early morning news.
on ABC News Live.
Whenever, wherever news breaks, it's so important to always remember that lives are changed. Here in London, in Buffalo, Uvalde, Texas, Edinburgh, Scotland, reporting from Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Ukrainian refugees here in Warsaw, rooted to a small community outside of Mexico City, getting you behind the stories as they happen. ABC News Live Prime. We'll take you there.
Stream ABC News Live weeknights wherever you stream your news. Only on ABC News Live.
We were coming of age in the 1980s. The Brat Pack was here, the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. If you have Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
Disaster.
Why would we take it as an offense?
I'm not going to say we're Beatles or anything.
Well, it is kind of face dating.
1985? I think we could.
Have you seen many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
This is ABC News Live.
Talk to your families.
On the ground in Ukraine.
ABC News Live, America's #1 streaming news. Anytime, anywhere. Streaming 24/7, straight to you for free.
Thank you for making ABC News Live America's #1 streaming news.
I'm posting stories reporting from Tel Aviv. These people are calling to bring the hostages home. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
All right, it is day 4 of the Democratic National Convention getting underway here at the United Center in Chicago. I'm Kena Whitworth, and we're so glad to have you along with us. This is ABC News Live special coverage. We, of course, are here on day 4, the final day of this convention, where Vice President Kamala Harris is set to officially accept the party's historic presidential nomination. Tonight, Harris will be addressing millions of people here in the arena across the country in this highly anticipated primetime speech. Last night, we heard from more A-list speakers. We saw some stellar celebrity performance as well. Take a listen. All right, that of course is John Legend and Sheila performing Let's Go Crazy in a tribute to the legendary Prince. The main event, though, last night, it belonged to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, Harris's running mate, who delivered a passionate and personal appeal to the American people and his own family with a touching reaction from his son.
It took Gwen and I years, but we had access to fertility treatments. And when our daughter was born, we named her Hope. Hope, Gus, and Gwen, you are my entire world, and I love you. I'm letting you in on how we started a family, because this is a big part about what this election is about. Freedom. It's the fourth quarter. We're down a field goal, but we're on offense and we've got the ball. And boy, do we have the right team.
And tonight's theme is For Our Future. The Harris campaign tells ABC News the vice president will emphasize what she is calling a new way forward and will lay out her vision for this country. She'll be focusing on her middle-class upbringing, her background as a prosecutor, and how her plan for the nation greatly differs from that of her opponent, former President Donald Trump. Joining me inside the United Center right now is our ABC News senior national correspondent Terry Moran, along with ABC News Zorine Shaw and Jay O'Brien. I'm so happy to have you here all with us. So, like, Terry, you're down there on the floor. I know you've been talking with people, and there's just been a lot of analysis here of who Vice President Harris is now. Who is the woman that will be walking onto this stage here tonight to accept this official nomination and try to make her way to the White House? And who was she 4 years ago?
All right, that's a great question. So I've asked that question. I mean, the California delegation here, people who know her, right? What is the difference? And one of the delegates said she has her sea legs under her now. There's something more solid about her, more confident, and they expect her to bring to that podium tonight that sense of strength that 4 years working alongside the President of the United States at the pinnacle of power in the United States, that has solidified her as a candidate. They also say she's the same person in several ways. She is a naturally upbeat person and a tough person. And that combination, they expect people to see and feel tonight.
Certainly tough, certainly strong, certainly prepared, and as Zorine has pointed out in so many interviews, right, that cool, calm, collected Kamala Harris, right? I know you've been talking with her staff and her former staff throughout the week, Zorine. How do they say Kamala Harris is preparing for a speech like the one tonight, the biggest speech, arguably, of her entire life and career?
Yeah, Kayla, you said 3 key words right there: cool, calm, and collected. I mean, that was her sorority line name that was given to her by all her sisters because of her demeanor, right? But I spoke to a lot of staff, and they say she prepares for a big speech the way she would at a trial. I mean, she's a prosecutor, right? She prepares every single word and over-prepares, in fact, they might say. But she starts with a theme, they say. She gets an outline, and then she hones in on what she wants to say very well in advance. And one former campaign manager said he never saw her on mornings of big speeches, probably for a reason. He said that she would relax, review remarks, save her voice, conserve her energy. We know this morning she was making tweaks, and the speech is done, but she was simply making those small tweaks. And I was listening to something that Terry said actually right now, that people say that she is the same person. I think that's what a lot of staff agrees with too. They've heard her speeches for years, and even going back to 2019, a few years ago, there were these huge speeches that she gave in front of 20,000 people, in front of the Liberty and Justice Center in Iowa, where she really got crowds on their feet and she captivated audiences. The big thing I think that the staff feels is that she hasn't changed that much. We're going to be seeing a similar Kamala Harris. They feel that the audience, everything around her has changed, and that'll be interesting to watch tonight as well.
Absolutely, Zorine, thank you. And Jay, as we check in here with you, we have seen people like Congresswoman AOC, right, Senator Elizabeth Warren, they're endorsing Harris, and you've also heard Mary Alice Parks say earlier, some of these ideas that used to be labeled more progressive are becoming more mainstream within this party. And how do you think that she'll be talking about some of those things tonight? And also, what are you hearing on the floor there from the delegates?
Well, one of the things, Kayla, is I'm actually going to just quickly interrupt and go to Jamie Harrison here, who's the DNC chair. Yeah, but we're live on ABC. We're just going to shout one to him here as he takes this picture right when he's done. Chair Harrison, very quickly, we're live on ABC, sir. Just very quickly, how do you feel about the momentum in the party? Do you think it holds some of that? No, it is. We're winning now. Thank you very much. We will. When we finally win is what he just said. her exactly how she approaches her policy agenda going forward. Does she cut herself in the mold of Joe Biden and essentially say this would be similar to the Biden administration, or does she go the more progressive route? Does she try in some way to marry the two? Tonight is going to be one of those tests, those early tests of exactly what kind of candidate and what kind of president is she going to be, and can she, with her message, keep this unity in the Democratic Party going, as Amy Harrison just said, all the way to November.
Oh, that's so interesting. All right, Jay, Zarian, and Terry, our thanks to all of you. And to preview more about the Vice President's big speech tonight, I want to bring in someone who has worked with her for years and could be part of the Harris-Walz administration, former Deputy Assistant to the President and Domestic Policy Advisor to Vice President Harris, Rohini Masoli. Thank you so much for being here with me again. So listen, you just listened to that whole conversation, right? So now I'm curious to see your thoughts. You're hearing things like, in many ways, she is the same woman that she was 4 years ago, but now she's had these 4 years to sort of study and to perfect her craft, if you will. But also, there is some pressure here on how will she straddle some of the policies that Biden had, the policies that the progressive end of her party is interested in, and of course the policies that the American people are interested in. And she has pivoted tonight, this biggest night of her life, to portray herself and her ideas for this country to the American people. What do you anticipate hearing? Well, I think tonight you're going to hear her talk about the promise of America. What does this mean to move the country forward, to unite the country, to make sure that people in this economy feel more opportunity, not less? We know her as somebody that's talked. People come up to me and they talk about the hearings and the Senate, and they remember this is the person that's taken on the big banks, the big pharma, big oil, and now we get to hear tonight what led her to these different career paths where she knows how to take on bad actors in the name of the American people and the middle class. And so we'll get to hear about her upbringing and her values and what really led her to be in this moment where we're truly talking about our freedoms and our rights and what's at stake when you compare to former President Trump and his Project 2025 agenda. Are you able to share with me at all what you view as her greatest strength when she is addressing the American people in a setting like this, but then also perhaps where she maybe needs to fine-tune and work on a few things? Well, I think what's important here is when we look across, what's something that's so important is lowering the cost of groceries for Americans, and she just released a plan about that. She pushed back on that plan pretty hard. Well, what's important is when we look at there's 37 different state laws across the country right now. We know it's a problem, and people want to hear about our plans to lower costs for everyday Americans, to create more opportunities for the middle class. And I think in the coming weeks, you're going to hear her continue this push to make sure that the middle class really feels seen in this election, that she's going to do everything she can to lower costs, create more opportunities, and what she presents her vision of the future, that's a future in which the middle class is thriving. And you're hearing about the momentum. You just heard that when we fight, we win. There is a lot of momentum and unity going on here, but this thing is far from over, right? There's going to be a lot to deal with for this campaign in the coming months, including a debate that's coming up on ABC. I'm curious, as I know that you have prepped her for past debates. Are you able to share anything with us in terms of how she is readying herself for that? So what I would say is Vice President Harris, Governor Walz, they have been talking with the American people and saying, we're going to earn your vote. We're going to earn every vote. And they're presenting a different vision of the future than former President Trump and Senator Vance. And this will be an opportunity for them to talk about that contrast, what the future looks like in terms of uniting the country and moving forward in the future with a positive future. And I think that that's what there's going to be a big focus on. The debate on ABC is September 10th. That is not that far away. One of the large criticisms here and questions is that we're hearing a lot of ideas and we're hearing a lot about hope and joy from Democrats, but we're not hearing specifics on the policy plans. Those are some things that will have to be nailed down in all likelihood ahead of that debate. What would you be advising her on? Also, I think that when you meet with voters in these different states, they really want to understand what are your values, when you're in front of them, what are your plans for the future, but also are you the same person that on stage is going to be fighting for them behind closed doors? And I think the more they get to know Vice President Harris, hear about her upbringing, also about Governor Walz, as you heard last night, people are responding to knowing that they're going to be fighters for the middle class. But the values don't, put food on the table. Well, that's why last week they just laid out about lowering prices and groceries, and then you're going to be hearing more about their plans for the economy,
when we look at things about people that want to, as they look forward to the future for their children and their grandchildren, it's going to be important that they hear, where do my kids fit into this? And I think it's, you heard that last night from Governor Walz, and you're also going to hear that tonight from Vice President Harris.
And her stepchildren will be taking the stage as well tonight, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. I so appreciate your time around me. It was wonderful. All right, outside the convention center as well, as many of you know, security has been on high alert, especially today for this final day of the DNC. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, has been following these protests really all week long. And so, Matt, the last time I checked in with you, it sounded like things were happening, but they were pretty peaceful in that moment. What more can you tell us about what you're hearing?
There's actually an interesting moment, Kano, when Vivek Ramaswamy came and was essentially run out of this rally. He said he just came to listen, but he was called a racist Zionist pig. There was a massive pack of journalists and hecklers, and he basically ran away from here. And I think that's what police and law enforcement are most concerned about. Curveballs that they're not quite expecting. Today's protest, thousands of people, you might see them congregating just on the other side of the park there. For a continuation of Monday's protests, but I just wanted to give you a sense, and police officers are giving them wide berth right now, of the scale of the security operation here. And the idea is that police officers and Chicago PD want to give them a wide berth, want to let protesters march peacefully, and feel like they're doing it independently. On the other hand, they are creating this airtight security cordon around it. Hundreds and hundreds of officers, and they're more on the other side of the park. But I think this gives people the kind of sensitivity that Chicago PD has right now for this. And of course, inside, it's controlled by federal agencies like the Secret Service and Homeland Security, etc. But security presence outside, pretty intense right now, Kano.
And Matt, I have a quick question. I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but we just showed some video of you trying to walk along Vivek Ramaswamy. It sounded like you were trying to ask him some questions, but we couldn't hear it. Are you able to share any of that with us?
Yeah, I was just trying to say, it sounded like he came here as a provocatory act, and he was trying to answer, saying that he just came to listen, but he was constantly heckled that we couldn't really get through very much of a question and answer exchange. We haven't seen much of him for a while, but certainly since the RNC in Milwaukee a few weeks ago, and him turning up here, he was immediately encountered by the lead organizer here, Fatima Budaya, who said, "You're not wanted here. We want you to leave now. You're just provoking," and then he was essentially mobbed. And there was a moment when police came running, and it seemed like things could get out of hand. Ramaswamy sort of left on his own volition, but trailed by those hecklers and other people as well. It was a tense moment, and again, I think that's the kind of thing that folks are worried about here. An interaction between protesters and counter-protesters that police wouldn't have control over, and it could get violent. That didn't get violent. It was mere words, but you never know. So police rapidly responded. That's the kind of thing we're concerned about. Again, they're willing to allow these protesters today. We'll see probably a couple thousand over there to march as long as they want. I'm told, as long as things don't get out of hand. If they do, they're going to shut it down very quickly.
All right, Matt Gutman, as always, our thanks to you. And we have a lot more special coverage ahead here on ABC News Live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Listen, the floor is starting to get full. I'm sitting up here, so happy to be here with everybody. ABC News Live, we'll be right back.
Whenever news breaks,
We are here in Israel, a nation at war after that brutal surprise attack by Hamas.
On the ground in Ukraine, reporting from the East Domain.
The scene of the horrific mass shooting.
ABC News Live is right there everywhere.
The scene of that deadly mass tonight in Ukraine. Reporting from the earthquake in Turkey.
In rolling forward, this tornado tore through this little town.
The most devastating disaster in Hawaii.
Charleston, South Carolina, on the 2024 campaign trail.
In Iceland, what's happening?
Mexico City.
From the front lines from southern Israel, attack the Gaza Strip. In Beirut, where the FBI.
Reporting from the nurses on the picket line.
Here at 10 Downing Street in London.
Streaming live to you.
Wherever the story is. Wherever the story is. Wherever the story is. We're going to take you there. You're streaming.
ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
We're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. America's #1 streaming news.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
From
with you. And Sarah, I'd like to talk to you about some of this counter-programming that we're seeing from this Trump Vance ticket. There's clearly a big battleground blitz happening. We know that Donald Trump is down at the border today. Immigration is an issue that he is polling much better on. But also, you know, he spoke with our Maria Villarreal today, and he brought up that bipartisan bill, the one that he has been credited with or criticized for, depending on how you look at it, for tanking. He called it weak. He said that's why he decided to take it. Do you think that they're going to gain anything by this counter-programming?
Well, certainly the ratings at the Democratic National Convention have beaten the Republicans on each night so far. I expect the same thing will happen tonight as well. But in truth, you know, the ratings talk about the base. These are mostly people both tuning into the RNC and the DNC who are already supporters, so it's rallying your base. I actually don't think this will be a base election. I think this is going to come down to who can win Western Pennsylvania, and that's going to be, frankly, economic issues and maybe very specifically about fracking and whether Vice President Harris can explain her position where she previously said she wanted to ban fracking. Now she says she doesn't. Can she explain that to those Western Pennsylvania voters in a way that they believe? If so, I think at this point, this is her race right now, and we'll know more once she starts doing interviews in that debate in September as the polls start to settle a little.
I mean, we've heard a lot about this issue with can she explain her stance on fracking. We hear a lot that Western Pennsylvania as a whole is going to be crucial in this election. And, you know, it's her staffers that are trying to explain her policy because she is not really talking with the media. She hasn't done a sit-down interview yet. How should they be addressing, again, some of this back and forth on fracking, but some of the larger issues here, and the fact that she hasn't done that sit-down interview yet, and we've got a debate coming up soon as well.
Well, I think everyone's been excited to see what she did just the other week, coming out with her big, bold economic policy, starting to articulate where she stands on tackling some of the big crises that American people face, whether it's bringing down the cost of groceries and tackling price gouging, or dealing with the big crisis that people are really worried about, which is the increasing cost of housing and not being able to afford a home. So she's only been at it for a month. We've got to remember, you know, she was thrown into it. She's come from totally behind and out of nowhere to take the lead in these key states. And with all of the energy starting to articulate her policy positions, and we're going to get to hear from her in just a few hours. We have millions of Americans turning in across the country.
Yeah, and Sarah, I'm also hearing that it's perhaps not the worst idea for her not to be laying out really specific policy plans here, because you saw large criticism from her economic plan here. There were several economists that didn't think it's going to work. They don't think that it's feasible. And so the idea that maybe they just talk about the big ideas and the values might really help the campaign to keep it steamrolling.
And there's some history for that. Back in 2008, Barack Obama said that he was a blank projector onto which people could project their ideas and assume that he agreed with them. And I think they're trying to run that kind of model. What's interesting is it was so few days left to early voting starting and election day for that matter. Time is actually on their side here. It will be up to journalists and the media to find the way and the pressure to pin her down on some of these policy changes that, as you say, have actually come from staff. We haven't heard from her that she has changed her policy position in some of these. I think the problem will be if she doesn't start laying out some of that, even understanding there will be criticism. Those voters in Western Pennsylvania that I was referring to, it's not that they'll move over to Trump. Trump has been an option the whole time. It's that they will simply stay home.
Right, again, we keep talking about this voter apathy, right? That really the third thing on the ballot here is the couch, right? But you're talking with young voters, you're making sure that they're getting up and voting. Are more of them, at this point, willing to come off the couch? And is it an economic issue that will drive that?
Yeah, I mean, we as an organization, we run the largest campaigns to get young people to turn out. It has been a total shift from where we were just a month ago. We went from having to feel like we were going to have to persuade millions of young people to turn out. They are ready to mobilize. We saw her jump up in the polls in double digits with young people. So she is now dramatically leading with young people. We have seen the African American vote say that they're going to vote with her, the Latino vote more with her. So the base is fired up. There's going to be some votes on the margins, but there was no way any Democrat could win this race without having the base fired up. And they are fired up like we haven't seen them since the Obama years.
They certainly are, and we keep hearing that comparison to what it was like when he was running to now. All right, thank you so much, Christina Ramirez. So nice to be able to talk with you both. All right, we have a lot more special coverage here on ABC News Live from the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. I'm Katie Whitworth. Stay with us, everybody.
On the 2024 campaign trail
Here at 10 Downing Street,
wherever the story is.
We're taking you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live.
You're streaming ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, streaming free everywhere. Beyond the stories that shape your world and shape your life. Dramatic, stunning, empowering, jaw-dropping. The most powerful stories of our time. Now on Medical Kill and streaming on Hulu.
Tonight, it's the final day of the Democratic National Convention as Vice President Kamala Harris takes the stage and makes her case. David Muir reports from Chicago. World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen in to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
Hi, I'm Andy. And I'm Sabrina. And we're moms, juggling tons of stuff every day, like all you moms out there. And you know what we love? Really love pop culture. So what happens when being obsessed with pop culture collides with being a mom? You get us. So listen now to our new podcast, Pop Culture Moms, wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Lindsay Davis, reporting from Chicago at the Democratic National Convention. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
What does it take to be the most watched newscast in America?
We are part of an operation. This is a common operation. We're approaching the gateways and sealing the ABC was a couple levels of things down the house. This is the story that required our authorities. How important is the USA? Wait, what? It's my David. I'm David Muir. You're very nice.
This is World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
First thing in the morning.
There's a lot going on.
We're still in a flash flood warning.
To catch you up with what happened overnight, recent riot gear arresting dozens of protesters.
What's happening today, escalating tensions in the Middle East.
What people are talking about, the migrant crisis.
Fast, straightforward,
with some fun in between.
Check out the gator on the 17th hole.
The buzzkill in baseball.
First thing in the morning.
America This Morning.
America's #1 early morning news
on ABC News Live.
ABC News Live, continuing coverage of the Democratic National Convention here in Chicago. Look, you can see just how full this floor is already. You're also seeing a lot of people wearing white here tonight. This is a celebration of women, and that is not on accident that so many folks are wearing white down there. And I want to check in with ABC's Jay O'Brien, of course, who's been on the convention floor and has been on the convention floor here for days. And listen, Jay, history is going to be made tonight on the floor. There's no question about that. But also, this base is rallying behind Tim Walz. His speech last night was incredible, but I think it's really interesting also that after his speech, Jay, it was the best grassroots fundraising day of the Democratic National Convention so far. Better than even when the Obama spoke. And I'm curious as to your thoughts when you're talking with people down there, but also the time that you spent speaking with rural voters, especially those that are trying to get Democrats to vote for this ticket in those rural areas.
Well, look, I think Democrats are still going to have an uphill battle in a lot of those rural areas. That's what rural Democrats tell me. But they believe Tim Walz, to your point, gives them a little bit of a boom in their odds. But think about people wearing white. Okay, you can see it a little bit over my shoulder here. And there's even more people wearing white the closer you get to the stage as the program begins here. That is in recognition, exactly as you said, the historic nature of this ticket. Kamala Harris, the first black woman, the first South Asian woman to lead a major party ticket. And wearing white has been something that female Democrats have done quite some time now to demonstrate solidarity. They did it, for instance, during one of former President Trump's State of the Union addresses. Remember Nancy Pelosi wearing white, all the Democratic women wearing white in that chamber. When Kamala Harris, as we talked about over the course of the day, takes that stage, she will look out on a sea of people wearing white in honor of her. Another thing I've heard Democrats remark on here, Kana, is the energy in the room, not just because they are energized by this ticket, and they all say that they are energized County, where during the roll call, for instance, states pledged their delegates remotely via satellite, and there was nothing like this gathering, this energy, that roll call / spectacle we saw on Tuesday, the energy and performances we saw prior to Tim Walz's speech last night, and then, of course, the performances that are expected tonight. So Democrats say they like this level of energy, and they like being able to use this event to try to make that pitch to some of those independent and undecided voters.
You're exactly right, Jane. You know, we keep hearing that, this was a historic night for Democrats in terms of fundraising. This was an historic day for Democrats in terms of garnering volunteers. And then they break that record, and it keeps happening again and again. How long can they keep that momentum up remains to be seen. Jay O'Brien, thank you so much. I, of course, want to bring in now our Sirius XM radio host and ABC News contributor, Mike News. Were you just sitting here giggling? Okay.
I'm always happy to talk to you. It's funny, we have a mess.
So, I'm a big Mets fan. You know what I love when you were your side of coffee today. All right, high five. Okay. Credit my husband for that. So, I told you, I want to talk about something you and I often talk about privately here, is that you really feel like in this election, people are voting on personality. They're almost voting for that hope and joy. And it's interesting to me because, Olivia Rubin just told by the Trump campaign, hope and joy is not going to put food on the table. That doesn't pay your bills. And while that's true, you can vote for hope and joy. And it sounds like what you're hearing is that that's what people make do.
They are. It's really when you attribute it to like leaderships. There's almost two different leadership styles. No matter if you work in corporate America and the nonprofit, sometimes the CEO could lead from a place of fear, and for them, that's how they motivate. And sometimes some people respond in terms of employees to fear. Some people want to be led inspirational and be aspirational, and they want a leader to lead with like kindness and joy, and they're more responsive to that. That's no different than what we're seeing right now in this election cycle. It's all human behavior. Do humans respond to the idea of fear? I mean, my fear is on the other side, the Republican side, it is coming from a place of making America great again, as it is not great now. And remember, their themes on one of the day was make America safe again. Really leading with America is unsafe. Their claim is that murder rates are up, crime is up, right? So coming from that place of fear and emotional driven versus the Democrats this week has all been about hope, freedom, and joy. And this is what America is. So vote if you want to sustain that, or if you believe, as Reagan said, the shining object on that hill.
And another thing that you had sort of mentioned to us yesterday was that if, from your purview, the Republican Party doesn't feel as welcoming, that they're kind of speaking to their base and not trying to bring in new voters. But a couple of people said to you, it was different at the RNC. We saw different Republicans in that moment. They were trying to spread the party. They were trying to wrap their arms around people that hadn't decided yet. And so what I'm hearing is that perhaps what we saw at the RNC isn't translating.
It's not. And that's actually a shock when you think about it, because Republicans do such a great job of branding. They're good with the bumper sticker slogans. And so I was very taken aback at the Republican RNC with a moment of 4 nights of straight prime time that they weren't able to convey and to translate that messaging. As you know, Republicans are very diverse in ideology. There isn't one dynamic, but there's something about the way they present it in their prime time staging that was different from what is the Republican tent altogether. And I'm talking about the Romneys of the world. I'm talking about the Vice President Cheneys of the world. Where was President George Bush, who does embody that type of branding that is of the Republican Party? It just didn't translate. But I did hear on the ground it felt different. But there was something about the way, and as you know, the Republicans do a good job with television and narrative. That is what makes Trump so successful. He knows how to do television. But for some reason, there is a huge disconnect.
Interesting. All right, Mike Muse, I don't know if you have to leave. I don't want you to leave.
Yeah, I don't want to go.
Okay, we're going to go down to the floor, though, for the invocation. So let's take a listen to this.
Please stand if you are able for this evening's invocation, offered by American Federation of Government Employees National President, Dr. Everett Kelly, and Imam Muhammad Abdul Amin.